Some people believe that things in life will be handed to them because of their unyielding faith in their God.
It was the most memorable time of my life. It was a touching moment because I never thought this day would ever happen. I won't have to worry about putting gas in my car. I won't have to worry about paying my mortgage.
While others believe their life desires will be earned through hard work. One way is by completing college. Oh, look how happy. She believed, she achieved, and now she's off on her chosen path with no looking back. But not for 27-year-old woman in New York who recently filed a lawsuit against her college. What she wants is her $70,000 tuition back because she graduated 3 months ago and she hasn't found work yet. Okay, so the school's major selling point was in fact job placement assistant, but what if she was a dumbbell who only graduated by the skin of her teeth? Or a royal pain in the butt who never demonstrated that she would be a good candidate in the workplace? Or maybe, and this is just a wild guess, maybe the school might not be able to get anyone jobs right now. Has she considered that? I mean, her degree is in information technology, which is complex computer stuff, which means she was literally one Google click away from discovering there's a new sheriff in town. And there ain't no jobs, or a very limited amount. And if she doesn't know that, it sort of brings me full circle back to that dumbbell thing. But assuming she's not that, why then would she jump to suing her college after only 3 months? Well, the answer could be as simple as this, folks. We are now officially living in a culture that tells people if they are unsuccessful or unhappy, it's someone else's fault. Check it out. Every day, everywhere we look, we see people who, rather than accept personal responsibility, play the blame game. Take, for instance, in the world of politics. If your guy doesn't win the election, it's not because he was a closet super eco freak who came off phony and insecure by changing his look more time than Cher in the 80s. It's because the other guy cheated. However, more recently, if this was your guy and you blamed the other guy's win on the fact that he received mysterious donations and used these guys during the election, well, you actually may have a legitimate beef. So when you think of it, the New York IT student can hardly be blamed for blaming her school. Like many young people today, she's been raised and even educated in our new culture of blame. Wow, if we could only go back to see how things used to be. I said if we could go back and see how things used to be. Whoa, this is cool. Thanks. You see, many, many years ago in America, things were very different. God was still allowed in schools. Students were encouraged to be responsible and have civic pride. They were taught American history, they proudly saluted the flag, and they respected the awesome gift that our forefathers created to assure our freedom. As opposed to 2009, when the only interest in finding out about our forefathers is on the Maury Povich show. But history is great. For one thing, it revealed that the left solution, throwing more money that would be our money at schools to solve school problems, has not worked. Over the years, we've actually seen more student violence, higher absentee and dropout rates, and those who do manage to graduate more often than not can't even read the doggone diplomas. Clearly, it's not a lack of funds, but what it is the left's lowering of expectations for students to meet high academic standards, especially in the inner city. Instead, circumstances like poverty, cultural differences, overcrowded classes, segregation, and standardized tests are blamed for student failure, even though history disputes that. In the late 1800s in Washington, D.C., there were 4 public high schools, 3 all white and 1 black. The black one was called the Dunbar School. Like today, many of its students were from broken homes and were on welfare. Unlike today, they were still expected to speak in grammatical English, complete sentences, and the books they used just happened to be above their grade levels. And for over 85 years, the Dunbar School repeatedly equaled or exceeded the national norms in standardized tests. But that's because they were well funded, right? Wrong. The school was broke, people. Additionally, it averaged about 40 kids to a class, had cracked blackboards, and the lunchroom was so small, lots of students had to eat out on the streets. Yet this poor school had less absenteeism and less tardiness than the white high schools in D.C. during those times. This was because they had a serious tradition of being serious. Most of its 12,000 graduates went on to higher education. And if that doesn't impress you, how about this? The first blacks to graduate from West Point and Annapolis came from there. The first black full professor at a major university came from there. So did the first black federal judge, general, cabinet member, and the discoverer of a method of storing blood plasma. So what happened to the Dunbar School, you ask? Shortly after 1954, Dunbar abruptly became a typical failing ghetto high school. 85 years of achievement gone, practically overnight, because of the politically correct progressive politics of education. Guys, bring me back. This is just too sad. Thanks. What's also sad is they've maintained a foothold in the inner city and suburban public schools to this day. Schools now indoctrinate students and promote the personal and political agendas of their teachers. So, instead of learning basic skills and critical thinking they will need as adults, students are encouraged to become activists who learn to blame the ills of the world on oil, coal, nuclear energy, CEOs, banks, Wall Streets, and nitrates. Yep, they even dictate what's permissible for your kids to eat. And with or without your permission, they might also demonstrate how bananas aren't just for lunch anymore. And while these micromanaging so-called educators admonish kids for eating anything containing trans fats, they have no problem dishing up a daily dose of man-made global warming lies. Countless kids have been forced to watch Al Gore's debunked an inconvenient truth and accept it as truth or suffer a bad grade. I'd like to say school recreation has fared better than academics, but I can't. In fact, a recent study says kids have been getting hurt in gym class, so that probably means kids will be kissing that one goodbye soon, right along with competitive sports, which has also been drastically changed by the left. In the name of equal distribution of fairness, kids who aren't fast or athletic enough are no longer encouraged to work to get better or find a different game to play. They do, however, get a nice shiny trophy, and to go with it, a harmful lesson on unrealistic expectations, entitlement, and instant gratification. You see, way back in my day, Guys, that was just me talking here. It's not a cue. Thanks. You see, way back in my day, the school playground was completely different. The apparatus was made out of metal with heavy rings and chains, stuff that could swing back, smack you in the head, and knock your teeth out. But we didn't care. We weren't concerned with getting hurt. We were concerned with getting stronger and being able to grab onto each one of those rings and make it all the way back to the starting point. Because in those days, as soon as you fell, your butt was out and the next kid behind you was next. So we practiced. We practiced every day. And even though the skin on our hands started peeling off, no Band-Aids, we kept working past the pain and eventually developed the calluses we needed to hang on to those rings. As gross as this all sounds, to this day, I have found no substitute for going through the uncertainty of taking a risk to the pride of accomplishment. But today's kids may never get to know the pride of accomplishment that will give them the self-confidence they'll need to interact and socialize in a real-world format. Thanks to the left, they may never develop the necessary calluses they'll need to succeed as an adult. And we can blame the left for that, right? Wrong. We can't. We can't because this is our fault. The real deal is we've watched their relentless cultural, social, and educational experiment with our children go on for decades, and we didn't fight back. The good news is today's a new day. The fight back against Obamacare has demonstrated that we've been pushed too far, and there's a groundswell movement underway, full of people shouting, "Silent no more!" So for the future of the country, we're rising up and we're taking matters back into our own hands. For the future of our children, we must do the same. So a word to you on the left, who counted on us to remain quiet and accommodating. The blame game has played out. We're on the move, and yes, we can take our country back, take our culture back, and while we're at it, we're going to take our kids back too.
Silent no more! Silent no more! Silent no more!